Buckle your seatbelt. It's time for another episode of the Prepper Recon Podcast. If you're near Cincinnati, start making plans to come see me at the Cincy Preparedness Expo at the Sharonville Convention Center on October 15th and 16th. Besides all of the fantastic prepper gear available, it's a great place to learn vital survival skills. And make sure you stop by the Prepper Recon booth to say hi. Check out cincypreparednessexpo.com for tickets and information. Whether your plan is to bug out or bug in, campingsurvival.com has all of your preparedness needs, including fish antibiotics, long-term storage food, and water filters. Use coupon code PREPPERRECON for 5% off your order at campingsurvival.com. Today's guest is Dan O'Hara. Dan organizes and promotes the best prepper expos around, including the upcoming Cincinnati Preparedness Expo this October 15th and 16th, which I'll be exhibiting at. Dan, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Fantastic, and we're really looking forward to Cincinnati. We had a fantastic time in Atlanta, that expo last spring. It was just so nice to meet people who listen to the podcast and read the books, and it was really nice to meet you and Kit. Both of you worked so hard putting all that together, and I'm sure Cincinnati is going to be just as great.
Yeah, this will actually be the second year for Cincinnati. We live in Cincinnati, so it's our home base. And that was actually our first show last year, and it really turned out fantastic. We had Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North at the show last year, and we had a tremendous event, and it was our first shot at a show. And since then, we've done a number of shows in St. Louis and Atlanta and Dallas. And then, of course, we did St. Louis again, and we'll be doing Cincinnati again, so it'll be our sixth show. So I guess we're getting to be veterans at this now.
Very good, very good. Yeah, there's something to be said for experience. And I noticed that
sure.
Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy are going to be the keynote speakers at this show. And in the area of medical preparedness, sometimes there's a lot of speculation. And I think it's nice to be able to learn from somebody that's a prepper and also has a real medical degree. So I think that's going to be very informative and very valuable for folks to be able to go and hear them, because Dr. Bones is he's an actual doctor. He's actually got a degree, and he's actually practice medicine, and he's a prepper, which we don't always get both of those things a lot of times. You know, there's a lot of preppers that think they know medicine and they really don't, and there's a lot of doctors that just kind of poo-poo the whole preparedness movement. So I think that he's going to be a great speaker, and the folks will have a lot to learn from that. Do you agree?
Oh, he's tremendous. I mean, you know, his name is Joe Alton, and his wife, Amy, they call him Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy. And he retired from medical practice once upon a time, and he's a prepper, and he does this full-time. He's a surgeon and a physician. And Amy, his wife, is a advanced RN. So they definitely have the skills and the background, and they're very passionate about what they do. They both are highly respected. I mean, they've been on the BBC, CNN, Fox. They've been on everything, and they're always interviewed. They will actually, at our show, they'll be doing a suture class, a 3-hour hands-on suture class. They'll also be speaking on osteomedicine, survival in a bad environment. And he also sells medical supplies and medical kits, and he takes it to a much greater level than just having a first aid kit. And he's very good at what he does. And this will actually be his first time at one of our events. So we're really excited to have him and have him as a keynote speaker. And he has a big following, and I'm sure a lot of people, if you haven't met Dr. Bones or Joe Alton, you need to come to the show just to meet him. So a lot of insight coming from him and his wife.
And since the last time we spoke, the world's entered what looks like a death spiral. We have a terrorist attack or a mass shooting in America or somewhere in the world most every week. Are you starting to see an uptick in interest in attendance in your expos since the violence?
It's amazing because I saw some complacency last year, And it just boggles my mind when I see this. But then here recently, boy, has it dialed up with people calling about the show with questions, exhibitors calling wanting to exhibit. It has definitely dialed up here recently. And I mean, understandably so. I mean, people need to wake up and think about this stuff. You know, one of the things I always mention, in fact, down in Atlanta at the show that you attended, Mark, I was interviewed by the Atlanta Constitution down there. And the one thing that I kept telling him, and he actually put this in his article, is that I am not, you know, unfortunately, some people think of preppers as being guys that live out in the woods, that have a beard and no teeth and or a bunker in the woods. I mean, that's not what I am, and that's not what this is. You know, I have multiple businesses I own unrelated. My wife is a pharmacist. I live in an upscale middle-class neighborhood in Cincinnati. I have 4 daughters. One's in medical school, one's in the military, the other's a dietitian, the other's in the film industry. And yet we are preppers. Yes, we are preppers. I don't have a bunker in my backyard or in the woods, but I'm a prepper. And I am preparing for possible anything that could happen. And I hear people say, and this just came up the other day, and it really infuriates me, the myopic viewpoint or narrow-mindedness I see from some people. Somebody said to me recently, well, I'm not worried about prepping. I've got everything I need. I got a gun and ammo. Okay, what exactly does that mean? You're going to become a hoodlum and you're going to go out and steal and pilfer? Is that what you're saying? And I've heard that more than once. And guess what? I'm a prepper. You think I am not prepared for that kind of mindset? And people that say that, I mean, it's just, anyway, that's not what our show is about. Our shows are about sensible preparedness. And we talk about things that could happen. You know, a pandemic could happen. A natural disaster certainly could happen. Social unrest, I mean, come on, we've witnessed that. I mean, maybe not on a wide-scale basis like could happen, but it's something to think about. Or a terrorist threat. People think a terrorist threat on a grand scale. Well, you know, you can laugh at that, but if you go to ready.gov, which is our government website that says preparing makes sense, they say right in there, and in fact, I'm looking in front of me one of their pamphlets, preparing for biological threats, nuclear blast, chemical threat, radiation threat, or dirty bomb. I just read that from their pamphlet. It's called Preparing Makes Sense. Get ready now. You know, the other thing that concerns me, and I didn't mention this yet, is an economic collapse. That really concerns me. And maybe it does more so than a lot of people because I'm in business and I have multiple businesses. And I do quite a bit of business with the federal government, actually. And the economic scenario or situation that's going on in the United States and the world, it's scary. I mean, it is scary. I mean, when you're talking 20 trillion in debt, you know, and some of the other things, and actually it's not even 20 trillion. I mean, the unfunded liabilities are 100 trillion. I mean, those are numbers that, how do you ever pay things like that back? I mean, it's scary. It's very scary. And, you know, people think the government's always going to take care of you. You know, that's not necessarily the case. I mean, look at what's happened around the world in other countries. Why do people think that couldn't happen here? You need to prepare. You really need to prepare. And we're trying to get through to the family of 4 that lives on the cul-de-sac, you know, that kind of have thought about it a little bit but never have done anything about it. You know, to have some food, some water, some alternate power, some medical supplies, and a plan of action in place. I mean, everybody should have that. And I really recommend people go to ready.gov and read about what the federal government is telling us about preparing. You may have heard the commercials. They're running them on TV and on radio about this website. They kind of do it in a tongue-in-cheek fashion to get your attention, but The government is telling you we can't take care of you. You better listen. And it's what I believe in and what I preach.
Yeah, I think FEMA was doing zombie apocalypse posters there for a while. I mean, and the idea was, if you're prepared, as asinine as it sounds, if you're prepared for a zombie apocalypse, you're also going to be prepared for a hurricane, an earthquake, a forest fire, short-term civil unrest, and things of that nature. Because it's all sort of the same thing: food, water, shelter, security. It's all sort of preparing for one thing makes you much more ready for anything else.
When people come to our events, it's a wake-up call for some of them. I'll never forget this. Last year at our Cincy show, on Sunday, the show was Saturday and Sunday, there was a young gal there on Sunday, and I was talking to her, and she said, my friends drugged me here yesterday. I didn't want to come, but I was so impressed, I came back today with my friends. It's just when you go to the show and you see the seminars, you see the speakers, you see the topics, you see the services, you see the products, you start thinking about things, and it's a wake-up call. And it's really something everybody should attend. Our shows we have exhibitors, and they sell products, they sell services. They also give seminars. Most of them are experts in a certain theme or genre, and we will have 25 to 30 seminars. We have private classrooms. There's 4 classrooms. And in those classrooms, a lot of these exhibitors will give a 30 to 60-minute seminar on a specific topic. Maybe it's water purification or injury treatment or colloidal silver or surviving the crash of the dollar. And we publish those in advance, and you can go to all those seminars or any of those seminars, and some of them we repeat because some of them overlap. You can attend those for free with admission into the show. The only class you have to pay for is a suture class. It's a 3-hour class that Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy give. Now, they limit it, I believe, to 30 people. You get a pig's foot to work on. You get to keep the instruments, the DVD, and it's hands-on training, and you learn how to suture. I've taken one of those classes. And believe me, suturing, I'm no expert at it, but at least now I got an idea how to do it. So there was a fee for that class, but all the other classes are free with admission. And we will have all those published on the website so that and it'll be available at the show also, the scheduling, so you can attend any of those seminars on any of the topics that you may be interested in.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. The dollar's lost over 90% of its purchasing power since 1971. Silver, on the other hand, has proven to be a very stable form of wealth preservation over the years. And where do you buy silver? Silver.com, of course. Silver.com offers fantastic prices on gold and silver. Check out silver.com today. Trading Post in the Woods is ran by veteran crisis responders who know how important it is to be prepared. They specialize in comprehensive natural survival remedy kits, preparedness and homesteading supplies, as well as skills training. Visit them online today at tradingpostinthewoods.com. In addition to the violence that we talked about earlier, we've had massive wildfires out west over the summer, and wildfires threaten the lives of thousands, and it's just one of the many reasons that I think people should be prepared to bug out at a moment's notice. Having a good bug out bag packed and ready to go is key to being one of the first people on the road, so you're not caught in the traffic jam, which can, especially in something like a wildfire, can just become a death trap. So I think an expo is a great place for people to get out and kind of touch and see stuff. You know, you can look at stuff online, you can get stuff on Amazon, but when you can touch it and you can feel it and feel the weight of it, it kind of gives you an idea how much it's going to weigh down your bag. You can get an idea of the quality of how it's made. And I think that that's a great place to go. And also you can get the advice from professional preppers on what you need to put in your go bag. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I mean, you can build your own bug out bag, or you can buy one, okay, and you can buy different levels of it. So, you can do what you want. My girls, I have 4 daughters. They all have bug out or emergency bags in their cars. Very simple items in there, like a flashlight, a couple bottles of water, a protein bar, a thermal blanket, some flashlights, batteries, a couple things like that for emergency short-term situations. As far as bug out bags, I'm personally big on bugging in. I live in a upscale community, and I have no place to go. My home is going to be my fortress. However, and that's probably most practical for most people. However, you still need to have plan B in case you have to leave, and you must have a bug out bag. Is that going to be to the same level as your bug in situation? Of course not. But you do need that as plan B, my belief. So by coming to the show, you can buy bug out bags. You can learn how to build them yourself. I have here information from ready.gov called an emergency supply list. This information is available to you free, give you ideas of things to have in your bug out bag, things you may not think about, like a whistle or an N95 dust mask, chemical mask, or things like that. So they can help you think about things that you should have in your bag. The same with medical bags. We're not talking a first aid kit. We're talking about a medical bag. You could build one yourself. You could buy one at the show for $50. You could buy an advanced one for $300. You could buy an ultimate one for $700. So there's all different levels of things you can do. We have one exhibitor called Bug Out on a Budget. And his class is always packed because he tells you how to do it or teaches you how to do it on the cheap. And, of course, we all want to save as much money as we can. And he has a very interesting class how to put down bug out information, bug in information very cost effectively. So anyway.
And before the show, we were talking about Eve Gonzalez, and she was just on the show recently, and I know she's really looking forward to the Cincinnati show. And the people that attend her classes at the expo, they're really exposed to a wealth of knowledge that she relays from her experiences responding to disasters. So she's been there and done that, so to speak. So expos are just such a great way, a great place to get stuff, like we mentioned for the bug out bag. But as we talked about with Dr. Bones and all the other classes, there's such a great place to get skills. And you really need both, don't you? The skills and the stuff.
And, talking about Eve is amazing. I mean, she is incredible. People wait in line to speak to her. She is not somebody, she's been there. She's been, FEMA relies on her and calls her in. The places she has been, and the stories she can tell and does tell. She was telling me she was down in South Carolina last year or the year before for those floods. And some of the things she told me that you didn't hear on the news were pretty scary. And she'll give you a wake-up call like you've never heard before. And she actually just wrote a book that's going to be introduced, I believe, at our show, Major Disasters, Lessons Learned, How Not to Become a Victim. And she always talks about how people think they're prepared, and as she sees them in real-life situations, like in South Carolina with those floods, where 200-year floods came in, and people weren't prepared. And desperate people do desperate things. She'll tell you she's witnessed it firsthand. It's pretty amazing. Right now, she's kind of going through a difficult time because she does a lot of homeopathic stuff. And the government putting in a lot of regulations about homeopathic. It's my understanding, if I understand this correctly, I guess the FDA has turned over some of this to another department of the government, the FTC or whatever it is. And they're clamping down on a lot of the homeopathic stuff. They're clamping down on some of the doTERRA products and Young Living and making life difficult for a lot of preppers that kind of go that direction as far as more and more and more regulations, which is another scary situation, very scary situation. And it just fuels my prepping because of the uncertainty that is out there and is building every day. So I've become a little passionate about it, but I own some businesses and I have to deal with government regulations that are put upon me all the time, and it makes life very, very difficult just to function. Things I have to do before I can even sell any of my products is pretty amazing. Things that have nothing to do with the product, just with the way I operate the business. And I'm digressing a little bit here, and I probably shouldn't, but it just gets frustrating, very, very frustrating. So anyway.
That's very frustrating, especially to have the FTC involved with homeopathic remedies. That's completely crazy. They're supposed to be the regulatory board that keeps us from getting defrauded by Fast Eddie Wall Street traders. Goldman Sachs, which, almost anybody that's had anything to do with the Fed or the Treasury has at some point worked for Goldman, or after they get done with the Fed or Treasury, they get a job at Goldman, or they get some, outrageous speaking fees or something. In some way they're at some point in your life, if you worked for the government in that capacity, your pockets are going to get filled by Goldman Sachs. And of course, in 2008, we know that they were selling the subprime collateralized debt obligations, and had them rated by Moody's and Fitch as AAA rated debt, which everybody knew they weren't, including Moody's. And they were at the same time selling it as AAA rated debt, and then the same traders were taking positions on those CDOs, knowing that they were garbage, with these huge bets that would pay off when the things blew up on the other side. So, number one, it's fraud because you're telling somebody that it's AAA rated debt when you know it's not. And then number two, when you take the opposite side of the trade, and you know that the thing's going to blow up and nobody else knows that except your organization, that's called insider trading. Now, these guys walked away. Nobody went to jail. But we wouldn't, God forbid, Eve Gonzalez tries to get you to use peppermint oil or something else instead of something that's going to wreck your body, like all of the stuff that comes from the pharmaceutical industry, which I think that we can tell. That's pretty transparent to me to look at that and say, yeah, the same way that Goldman's got the Treasury and the Fed and the FTC bought and paid for, I think we can say that the pharmaceutical industry also has our regulators bought and paid for, and anybody that's going to challenge their zillion-dollar industry is going to get smashed like a bug. Is that what you think's happening here?
Yeah, and I talk about an economic collapse. These low interest rates, the government is so pigeonholed right now with these low interest rates. They can't raise them, in my opinion, because if they do, first of all, there's two effects. First of all, what it would cost the national debt, that $20 trillion debt we're servicing. If you've ever seen the statistics on what it is, how much it would cost per day, per hour, per minute when those rates go up, it is staggering. So how do they raise rates without affecting the debt? And how do they raise rates without affecting the economy? I mean, they're in a bad situation. And as far as I'm concerned, low interest rates for this kind of extended period of time are not good. I believe the stock market is crazy inflated because there are so many people that don't want to be in the market but have to be to get dividends, because people can't make money on CDs or other interest-bearing notes, so they have to put their money in the market. People that shouldn't be there. So people that normally wouldn't be there. But it's crazy what is going on economically, crazy. And I don't know, you talk to people, and as long as people get their government checks every month, and, you know, I forget what the numbers are, but the people that get a government check, you know, some of it's Social Security, some of it's, you know, welfare payments or food stamps or whatever. It's staggering the percentage of Americans that get some form of a government subsidy. It is staggering. And how does that end? That's my question. They said, how does it end? You going to take that away from everybody? I don't think so. It can't continue. What's going to happen? I mean, it's pretty scary. And that's one of the reasons I'm a prepper. So, you know, I know my brother-in-law, you know, he says to me, oh, you know, you're one of those guys, every generation thinks the world's going to end tomorrow. No. I'm not talking about a biblical, you know, end to society. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about man-made events that create this. So, other than a natural disaster or something. So it's real. It's definitely real that some of this stuff could happen. But anyway, talking about Eve. Eve will be at our show. She is somebody definitely everybody loves speaking to her and listening to her stories. I mean, she'll tell you the stories firsthand of what she's witnessed and where she's been. In fact, one of the shows she couldn't attend because she was at a natural disaster that she was called into. So those are the kind of people that you really will open your eyes to what could happen to you. I often tell people jokingly, or really I'm not joking, about the story of the three little pigs. The first two pigs laughed at the third pig. Well, they got ate by the big bad wolf, didn't they? Because they didn't prepare. I don't want to be eaten by the big bad wolf.
Hey, Preppers and Patriots, that's the end of the first half of my interview with Dan O'Hara. Tune in next week for the rest of the show.
In the post-apocalyptic thriller, The Economic Collapse Chronicles by best-selling author Mark Goodwin, America is on the cusp of financial annihilation. Matt and Karen Baer thought they were prepared for anything, but can they survive a total collapse of the economic system? If they want to live through the crisis, they'll have to think fast and move quickly. In a world where all the rules have changed and savagery is law, those who hesitate pay with their lives. The Kindle edition of the Economic Collapse Chronicles is now available as a box set. Buy your copy at Amazon.com.